Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to the listeners wherever in the world you are, and welcome to this program. Tonight, we would like to discuss um, the ongoing secas in Zimbabwe. I'd like to show you the headlines of in today's Below 24. Senior CEO directors given US 350,000 cash windfall. Wow. This is 350,000 tax free. This is a circus. This has been going on. This is, of course, in answer to the reports in November last year showing that government was giving 40,000 US dollars to the members of parliament. And sorry about that. And $350,000 to the deputy ministers and a staggering $500,000 to the ministers. Gentlemen, what do you think? Can we start with you, Godfrey?
Yeah, greetings, listeners. Hello, gentlemen, here on the platform. Well, all it indicates is there is cash somewhere. There is lots of money that is being wasted around. And obviously, this is for one reason which from the outside we can see that it's loyalty. Whether it's loyalty in arrears or loyalty in advance, just to gain loyalty. I wonder if this is going on and being challenged in the platforms that are better at addressing this. But I don't think it should be allowed to go on, because we obviously know that the repayment is something else. And this is money that is going to waste. Those are big amounts in any kind of economic environment, whether you are doing very well or what. But worse so, Zimbabwe is not doing well.
Do you seriously expect it to be challenged?
They should. Well,
who should challenge it?
If the people we have put forward to attend to such issues are silent, we should challenge it in a way that is possible. Any little word that we can put across, I think it will be something, rather than just keeping silent and sort of like accepting it as something that is expected, something which is to be done.
Well, Tawanda, what do you think? Hello, Tawanda, are you still there? Well, I think we may have lost Tawanda there. But to come back to you, Godfrey, the people who should challenge it in this particular case, you expect them to be members of parliament, I take it. How can members of parliament challenge it when they themselves have been receiving their 40,000 US dollars? Cabinet cannot challenge it. They have received, the deputy ministers have received 350,000 US dollars, and the ministers themselves have received $500,000. So challenge it on what basis? That they alone should receive it, no one else should receive
No,
it.
yeah. In that sense, surely we cannot expect them to say a thing. They have been silenced. But they should say something, just maybe to rationalize it in one way or another, but maybe the amounts or what. But not that we should expect them to agree to it. But now, if they don't, we come down to the level, like you have said, the people that have not got anything should then say something about it. A level lower. It should go a level lower. The ones just below the MPs should say something until it gets to the grassroots.
I think challenging it will not achieve anything. To be quite honest, if government has approved it and it is a legitimate government, that's it. But I think the most important thing here is to realize that this is, like you said as well with your introduction, uh, ZANU PF is facing elections this year, and this is just another case of the regime paying key people, key players in the coming elections to make sure that they um, help the regime stay in power. That is the bottom line. The CIO have played a significant role in Zimbabwe's election. The police, the army, the prison services. So I think what we are seeing here is a situation where the regime is paying the payments for these people. Ritawanda, are you available now?
Yeah, you can talk. I'm just sorting out my few things on my equipment. Just but I can hear you.
Okay. So this is the reality. These are down payments, like you correctly said, definitely Godfrey. These are down payments by the regime. And in this particular case, we know, for instance, that the CIO are embedded in SEC. They play a very crucial role there. SEC itself, the saver of all this SEC data that is collected for the voters' roll in the election process and so forth, is being stored at the uh, army service provider. You know, the main provider for the data is the army. It's an army subsidiary. So as the company on which where you're saving it, they of course they will have access to all that data. And this is ZANU-PF paying, making a down payment to make sure that all those key players cooperate, because it's not going to stop only with the CIO directors. Obviously, those in the army will be paid as well. Those in the prison services will be paid as well. Senior government officials will also be paid. Anyone who is seen to be playing a key role will be paid to help ZANU PF stay in power.
Yeah, like you have said here, because if they leave the army, I think they would definitely also be demanding that they get something, at least, because Actually, with this, I can sense that there is a need, or it is finding a need to appease the people around him. Not for actually winning. I think he's getting internal challenges, internal in the party and in the government as well. So when it's done in the open like this, I think there is something brewing inside government, inside the party. But we will only be silenced, or the people will only be silenced. Everybody will only be silenced if and when they get also recognition or a payment of some sort. So I don't think it's going to end there. It has to cascade down to the grassroots, as I said, for it to be swept under the carpet completely. Because there will obviously be some voices that will be unhappy about all this. And those are the voices that are likely to start something.
Wanda, do you have anything to say?
I don't see any. This is, everyone knows this is what they always do. It's like we know they will bribe the whatever it is, the power that be, those who are actually have got the power. The politicians, basically, they don't have the power. The power is somewhere else with the army, the CIO, the prison service. Those are the people who actually hold the power. And that is why when you know where the power is, that's basically what he's doing. He knows he doesn't have the power. If he neglect those people, you'll be out of that actually office. So he has to appease them basically. So that is the major problem. And interfering in politics, the army, the CIO, the prison service, the police, everyone stop interfering, then just do their role as when they swear the oath of office, then we will have a better country. But until that is done, we have got a long way to go, my brothers. We have got a big issue. We have to keep educating our people. We have to keep agitating and agitate to the people so that they understand what the situation is like.
Yeah, I read this article by a certain writer, Stuart Doran, and he was saying that in 1979 there was this white diplomat who was quite familiar with ZANU PF officials, and he observed that ZANU PF guys didn't seem to care much that the civil war that was going on was so destructive. And when he asked them, they said they were content to see Zimbabwe totally demolished if that was the price to be paid for preventing others from ruling. I think this is at the very heart of the ZANU PF regime we're dealing with here. You know, this regime does not care. They would rather see the country destroyed, completely destroyed, than let anybody else rule it. And in fact, since independence, that is exactly what ZANU-PF has been doing. They have started this patronage system with total disregard of the consequences of those decisions, and this is why we are where we are. But ZANU-PF has been willing to, in 1997, remember when they awarded um, um, uh, the war veterans the 50,000 US dollars. It wasn't budgeted for. And everybody told them that will cause hyperinflation. And ZANU-PF didn't care. The reason for giving that 50,000 was to buy the support of the war veterans. A few years later, when they started the farm invasion, everybody warned them that that will destroy Zimbabwe's agricultural sector. They didn't care. They still went ahead and did it. And so I think this is, gentlemen, a pattern that we have seen. The ZANU-PF will do anything to stay in power. That, I think, is the tragedy here. What do you think, Tawanda?
In power, and I read an article somewhere. They said, I think there's more coming to be paid to the war veterans, which has been put aside. The war, very soon you will see it in the press. They are going to get something paid before the before the election, so that they can be used. They will do anything and everything to stay in power, and that is why we have got. I still continue with the same scenario of saying we have got a long way to educate our people and understand the situation, so that they can really, we can have meaningful reforms. Because as I'm reading from the circles, whatever it is, like MDC, Triple C, everyone, they are willing to go for the election. They are not going to boycott the election. So I'm not seeing any of our rescue coming from any of those parties which are there at the moment. So we have to find a different solution, so that we can get rid of this system. We can have a proper reformation of some sort of the constitution or whatever it is, so that we can have a free and fair and credible election. Already, how would you announce the date of elections when you are still trying to sort out the messes of the delimitation report and everything? That doesn't make sense. I couldn't believe it. Then in front of the president, you are announcing the date, which means it's something they have been planning all along.
Yeah, it is most unfortunate, but I think this payment to the CIO directors is something that personally we should not be surprised at all. We saw it coming. ZANU-PF is going to do whatever it takes to win these elections. This is just one way. It's prepared to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars bribing key people in this election process. And we should not forget here that while the government is prepared to spend millions of dollars bribing key people in the election process, basic services like education, healthcare have been allowed to go to the dogs. Last week, we saw on social media circulating rainwater leaking into Parenyato Hospital. This is one of the four referral hospitals in the country. That's how far they've neglected it. Unemployment has soared to 80% plus. About 50% of our people are living in abject poverty. And yet, government does not care about any of that. Mnangagwa is so focused on winning these elections, he's prepared to spend millions of dollars giving people, somebody like the director of the CIO, each one of them getting 350,000 US dollars. Apparently, some of the lesser officials in the CIO are getting, but they are getting their share in Zimbabwe dollars. You know, some are getting up to 3 million Zimbabwe dollars. Others are getting 1 million Zimbabwe dollars and so forth. You know, so they wrote, it is clear, the indications are clear. ZANU PF is rigging these elections and is determined to pay out by the loyalties of the key people, the key players. How can this be free, fair, and credible election? And I think that question we've got to ask the opposition. They are determined to participate in these elections regardless. Do you seriously think that these details are going to change Chamisa and companies whether or not they will participate, in your view? Hello, Tawanda, you still there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, I'm saying, do you seriously think such revelations, such stories are going to change Chamisa and company and finally force them to realize this election is flawed? There is no point in participating in it, because by participating, they only give legitimacy to a process that is so flawed, you cannot win it. Do you think they will change their minds?
No, they're not going to change their mind. They are not, because you hear what every time one of his people criticize him, he's quick to go to Twitter to defend himself, saying, "Oh, I'm doing this because of this and that," or leaning towards the fact that he's going to participate in the election, because some of the people are actually not happy. His own people in Triple-C are not happy with the way he's handling certain items, whatever it is. If he gets criticized, he's quick to really defend himself. But when it comes to matters which really matter, he's silent. He only is quick to defend himself if something is actually criticizing him, to say, no, how can you say you want to continue doing this, and when you see these things are happening in your face, what is happening? And there's nothing. They are going to actually participate. There's nothing sinister about this. And this is the second round anyhow. The first round it was in the press some time ago, when they said some top government officials were all given some solar powers installed in their house and whatever it is, at an equivalent of over, I think, is it 20 million US dollars, whatever it is, like every single top official. How many top officials does they have, and you multiply that by 20, it's a lot of money. And somebody just said, these are actually solar panels. The price have been inflated so much. They should be around actually 7,000, but the government is paying at 20,000. So what else? These machineries are already in place, so towards the victory of rigging whatever he wants to achieve, whatever he wants to achieve, whatever he's gonna achieve. So don't worry about the opposition. Our hope is not in the opposition. There's nothing they're gonna do to stop whatever these people are planning to do. They've tried for over 23 years and they haven't done nothing. And 5 of those years, they were in the government and they didn't do nothing.
Yeah, I think the tragedy here is that the opposition, by refusing to accept the reality that ZANU-PF is rigging these elections, they are giving the process legitimacy, and therefore then giving the regime legitimacy. And I think this is the tragedy. And I think many people now have got to wake up to that reality that ZANU-PF is counting on the opposition. And to be fair, the ZANU-PF is bribing the opposition just as much as it is bribing these CIO directors and SEC officials and senior government officials, army, and so forth. Because if you look at the payout to the MPs, they did not only pay out ZANU-PF MPs, they paid out MPs of the opposition too. They received the 40,000 housing loan in November last year. And in the past, they have received the 6 million US, 6,000 or 60,000 US dollars for vehicles. So these ZANU-PF and opposition MPs and councillors, they also are in the gravy train. In fact, I go back to what David Coulthard admitted in his book. He clearly admitted that the process itself is so flawed, so illegal. The most rational thing to do would be to boycott the elections. But they could not boycott the elections because of greed. And I think this is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. We keep ourselves in this situation where we know ZANU-PF is destroying the country. And we know that as long as ZANU-PF remains in the country, they are dragging everybody, not just a few people, everybody, into total destruction. And the people who are helping to keep ZANU-PF in power are the opposition.
Yeah,
and I think Zimbabweans need to wake up to that reality.
That's what we have to believe to come up to and to realize that that is the reality, that they are the ones keeping them in power. Because if you say, oh, I've got 10 MPs in there and whatever it is, then the opposition said, come on, we're a thriving democracy. If it was not democratic, then they won't be in the parliament. So they'll get the whatever they if you see the report of Zach being criticized with people like Chinotimba, I couldn't believe it that it was so vocal. Chinotimba of all people, you know what I mean? He's like a comic MP, you know what I mean? But he was so vocal, you could see whatever the problem was with with whatever was going on. But he got it. he got there, they got there, they made their own recommendation. All what they should have done is throw that report away and start afresh and do whatever it is like. Because all of a sudden, it's now a legitimate document. Now that those 7 who wrote to the president, no one is talking about it. So we don't even know what's going on. Whether it was a way of just sidelining the main issue so that this can go through. None of them actually raised it in parliament. They just debated about the report. So it makes me feel like we are just wasting. Everyone is just wasting their time here. They need to actually sit down, and we need to sit down, educate our people, and show them where everything is going wrong. Then with time we will get there. We will cross the bridge. But without that, it will be the same old story. Every 5 years we'll be crying. So that's how I see it.
I think the point of educating every Zimbabwean should understand that ZANU-PF is rigging the 2023 elections, and it's not even hiding it. When you pay such unbelievable amounts of money, and all this money is not been budgeted for, and even if it was budgeted for, you say to yourself, where are our priorities? An individual gets $350,000 tax free, and yet teachers, nurses are being paid $75 per month, and the government is saying they have no money. ZANU-PF is rigging these 2023 elections blatantly, and it's making sure that the opposition participates by paying them, making sure that they also benefit from the corruption and the looting that is taking place. And every Zimbabwean out there should understand that. Every Zimbabwean out there should understand that. We cannot keep on pretending that this is a democratic election process where the democratic will of the people will be heard. Forget it. That is not going to happen. This is ZANU-PF blatantly rigging the elections, and the opposition participating to give the process some modicum of legitimacy, because they also are after the share of the spoils of power. That is the reality. And I think that message should be driven home between now and the election. At the end of the day, ZANU-PF should not get legitimacy from a rigged election. Do you want to give your closing remarks there, Tawanda?
The problem we have here is by participating, you are actually giving them the legitimacy. So if you participate, then you are giving them the legitimacy. I am not seeing them not participating. The only thing is we have to keep educating our people and see how far we can go. But as we stand, everyone is eyeing for something within the government, and they want also the piece of the cake. So at the end of the day, no matter what we say, particularly if we are trying to address the opposition, we are wasting our time. The only solution is to educate our people who are on the grassroots. Then from there, that's when things can start happening.
I think on the point of legitimacy, the just participating alone, the opposition participating alone, does not give the election results legitimacy. Let's face it, the opposition of constituted by Abel Musorewa and Davaning Stole participated in the 1978 election after the internal settlement. No one recognized them because they could see this process was not going to deliver any meaningful democratic change in then Rhodesia. In this case here, yes, most of the opposition are participating, if not all of them, but nonetheless, by us showing that the opposition are participating out of greed, we are showing that this opposition has no political credibility and therefore then cannot give ZANU-PF legitimacy. The election process itself is so flawed, blatantly flawed. The rigging, the bribing of key officials in the process is so blatant that you can see what is happening here. And I think that is the message that we need to send to the people and to the international community, particularly in this case here, SADC. SADC will not have any excuse for giving ZANU-PF pretending the election was substantially free, fair, and credible. This election process is flawed. And it flies in your face that it is flawed. And therefore, then it will be unbelievable if SADC was to turn around and try to pretend that this election was free, fair, and credible. ZANU-PF at the end of the day must not get legitimacy from a flawed electoral process where it's blatantly bribing those who are going to help the regime rig the election. And this is what that story is all about. Do you want to say your last remarks there, Tawanda, and then we pause?
I think I do agree with what you are actually saying. We have to really find a way of letting the international community, our people, know about this. That is, it doesn't matter whether the opposition participate or don't participate. This is a flawed election, and we have to, as long as if we can push our message to SADC so that they can say, oh, okay, this is not the right thing to do, then we might have achieved something. But this is how we have to find a better way, a better strategy of actually dealing with it. Apart from that, that is the only route left to us with. But when I'm looking at us Zimbabweans, we are so divided along the partisan line that it's so difficult. It is gonna take a long time for us to convince people to say this is what is happening. But there's nothing which is impossible. Every time, if we keep agitating, we will end up winning. That is my closing remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawanta. I think it is important that in this particular case, we make sure that our people know that the opposition is participating out of greed, and the international community, particularly SADC, that the opposition is participating out of greed. And number two, that the ZANU-PF is rigging these elections. That is the single most important message that we must give to the world out there, and that everybody should understand. Godfrey was having some problems, but he has managed to come back. So, Godfrey, I think we'll give you the honor of giving the last closing remarks.
Oh, thank you. But I'm not sure what you discussed. But I just want to close or final comments. Say this is open bribing, and this is open rigging. It's the people at the bottom, the people who are not getting anything, that should rise up and say something about it, challenge it. The only way, the only power that we have, it's not that these people that are getting all this have the absolute power, but the power rests in the hands of the voter. So anyone below the MPs, because we are saying the MPs are the ones that have not are the last ones to get down the level. Anyone below that, anyone who hasn't got a benefit out of this is supposed to group and say something about it, do something about it. The only power that we have, the power rests in the people. They are the ones that can actually bring a solution to this through voting. And also understanding that this voting is also manipulated, but something has to be done. And the only people that can do it is the ordinary voter, one way or another. That's all.
Thank you, Godfrey. I think I just need to add one thing there, that if the electoral process is so flawed that it's clearly being rigged, I think it is important that the people should know there is no point in participating in a process that you only give it legitimacy by participating when the result will be determined already. That is what ZANU-PF wants you to do. They want you to pretend that you are changing something when they know the process is so flawed in favor of ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF is guaranteed to win these elections. This is why they are bribing all these key people to make sure that they help to deliver a ZANU-PF victory. So the process is so flawed, there is no point in participating in it. Most people will think they are on the voters' roll. They will find they are not. This is why they don't want to give you the voters' roll. So the process is so flawed. Really, the only meaningful protest you can make now is not to participate in it at all, but also to make your voice heard that the process is flawed and you don't believe in it. And in this particular case, the ZANU-PF is rigging the election, and the opposition have absolutely no excuse in participating in this process, other than that they are participating out of greed for the 30 pieces of silver. And we cannot continue selling the country for 30 pieces of silver. That is totally unacceptable. And with that, I would like to close the program, and thank you very much, listeners, for listening. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.